All right, hi everyone. I'm here. I got Lon Strickler on the phone. I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll talk, about a lot of different things and about the books you have.
Okay.
Okay, I see the three books that I know you have out are Bizarre Encounters, Strange Encounters, and Cryptid Encounters.
Yeah, they're e-books or Kindle books, but they're I guess you kind of want to say they're a series, an encounter series that about every year or so I'm going to put something else out for. That might include sighting reports and accounts by my readers and other people that want answers for something.
Okay, great. If we could start with the cryptid encounters, what's the most that people come to you the most claimed? Like the Bigfoot, the Jersey Devil, the Mothman. What claims you have people approaching you the most about?
It used to be mostly Bigfoot at one time, but over the years it's kind of been a mix of everything. I'm involved with a lot of different things, and it just really hasn't been focused just on cryptids. And I've had Mothman sightings, gargoyle sightings, other strange beings, cryptids, if you want to call them that. It's a mix of everything. But I would say mostly, I'd say maybe Bigfoot or hairy hominids are probably the most.
Oh, okay. Now, as far as, obviously Bigfoot right now, due to TV and everything's the big thing. What are your thoughts on, if you have, about Bigfoot? Do you believe he's out there? And if so, in your opinion, what can it be?
Well, I had an encounter back in '81, and during that encounter, in fact, I hadn't even been doing any type of research as far as cryptids. It was mostly I had done some paranormal, some spiritual investigations. It was kind of new back then. Very few people doing it. It was kind of like a hobby to me. But when I had my encounter in '81, it kind of branched out that I was very interested. I became very interested in what I saw. I really didn't know what I saw, because what I witnessed looked more human than it did the typical Bigfoot type hairy hominid. So it had a lot of hair. It was huge. It was it was about 7 to 8 foot high. It was bulky, and it kind of reminded you of a Neanderthal. But as far as what I think it is, I think there may be some flesh and blood beings, hairy hominids on the planet. There may be groups of them. Breeding populations, I think there very well may be some. But I too also subscribe to the interdimensional theory. I do think that there's a good possibility that some of these beings that people are seeing are coming from another plane or another existence.
Okay, and that's, one thing I agree with too, and as you know, there's always the doubters and everything. And one of the theories that I personally have, as far as Bigfoot, is, my theory is it could be inbred. It could have been of an experiment years ago that went bad, and they tried hiding it, and it escaped, sort of like the melon heads. But then the other theory, which I totally agree, something from an interdimensional that was placed here, and, I think a lot of the creatures.
Well, I think cryptids in general may have an interdimensional aspect to them. There's a lot of different things that people see out there, including flying cryptids, canids. I don't think there's, for the most part, breeding and if there are, I think it's very isolated. But I think there is something that is causing these things to be able to move you through portals or other means. There's a theory that there's a UFO Bigfoot connection where people have seen both of these phenomena at the same time or very near each other. I think there's a very good possibility that very well may be what's going on.
Yeah, and I agree with you that there's something. And why do you think that there's been so many more sightings? Do you feel that the sightings have always been there and people were just too nervous or shy to come forward? Or do you think they're just more being placed here to see if they're noticed?
Well, Bigfoot has become mainstream ever since the Boggy Creek movie, and then subsequent sightings have been coming out. The internet came out, a lot more sightings. People started reading more. I think people have seen them, maybe less understood them at the time, but I think when there are sightings, that the witnesses aren't afraid to come out and be fearful of ridicule, as they were once before.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that's, one of the things is, when we were kids, people would make funny, I seen, Bigfoot, I seen a melonhead, the Mothman, the Jersey Devil, and back then it wasn't as mainstream as you stated as it is now. And
yeah, you look on television now, and you got all these different entities out there looking for Bigfoot, supposedly finding Bigfoot. They'll never find Bigfoot on these shows because that'll make a commute. So they won't have a show. But there are a lot of different shows that concentrate on this. And of course, there are a lot of shows on other cryptids as well. And, I don't have a problem with those. And in fact, I've been on a few myself. But it does get to the point where a lot of people that do get involved or become enthusiasts become discouraged very quickly because they just don't want to take the time to wait it out. You just don't go out there and start seeing stuff. You gotta go out there and wait for it to come to you. You're never gonna come to it.
yeah, and that's, one thing, as with the TV shows, like I enjoy the shows, but I don't see, if you're going to be out there hooting and hollering in the woods, I know if I was one of these creatures, the last thing I'm going to do is come to you. I'm going to go the opposite way.
Yeah, I don't think they offer good information for the most part. They're out there banging on trees, yelling and screaming, and tramping through the woods with cameras and such. Well, they're never going to be, you're never going to see anything on that, and it doesn't really represent the real research. I know a lot of people that do this, and for the most part, even though they like the idea that the investigation part is being brought out into the open, they just don't like the technique and what people tend to think about, what Bigfooting actually is.
Yes, and a question, obviously somebody, of your professional experience, what is your opinion on the Patterson footage?
I used to have my doubts with it, quite honest with you. For a long time I had my doubts. The more that I have seen enhancement done, the more that I have talked to other people that have studied the film. And I just don't think the Patterson film is the only one out there that may very well be a fact. But I think the Patterson film at this point, I think it's authentic.
Yeah, and the one thing you said with the enhancements, when they showed the bottom of the feet, that was a pretty, to me personally, that was a pretty clear, well, wait a minute, if that was a costume, it looks, they'd have to do a really good job, and considering they never found anything.
Well, and that's one thing that I noticed in my setting when this hominid walked away from me. I could see, after it got out of the bushes and started heading into the woods, I could see the bottom of the feet. And they were very similar to what you saw on the patterns on the padded foot type thing. So, I mean, that aspect of it, I believe it was, I believe that part of the film itself was very authentic. And, well, all in all, I don't think it's something that could have been faked back in that time, back in the mid-'60s like that. I just don't think they had the actual ability to do that.
Yeah, and that's, when you had your experience, which intrigued me, were you just out in the woods, or, if you don't mind sharing, how did it happen?
I was fishing. I was in Sykesville, about a mile downstream on the south branch of the Tapsco River. It was about a mile down south from Route 32 or Sykesville, Maryland. This was May 9th, 1981, about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was fly fishing in the river. It's a part of the river I've been in many times. Nice day, very sunny out. And the first thing I noticed was, now I was on the south side of the river, and it was fairly shallow. I was wearing waders, and it was up to my thighs, so it was fairly shallow. But anyway, I had noticed a stray dog on the other side of the river going in out the weeds and thickets on the north bank, and he was about maybe 50 yards from me, weaving in and out of the brush. I just didn't pay much bother to. He wasn't bothering me, so I just concentrated on fishing. But after a few minutes or so, I heard the dog barking and growling. So I figured maybe he had stirred up a deer, or But when I looked in the direction of the ruckus, I noticed a dark, hairy creature bobbing up and down in the thicket. Now I stopped fishing and tried to move closer to a more shallow area of the river, so I could get close to it and get a better look. And by that time, I noticed the dog had stopped barking. Then I heard a loud yelp coming from the dog. And when that happened, this creature stood up. The best I could tell is it was about 7 to 8 foot tall and had dark matted hair all over its body. So I can only see it from the chest up, because the rest of the body was obscured by the weeds in the thicket. So I stood completely still, and as I watched it, I could hear a ticking sound as it was walking through the thicket towards the woods. So I tried to follow it, and but of course I had the waders on, so it was hard to even get to move much. So at the ticking sound, I later realized I was its teeth were gnashing, or it's clicking its teeth. So when I saw it, it came out of the thicket, and it did look in my direction just very briefly, and turned around and started walking up into the woods. Now, it wasn't running, but it was moving at a pretty good clip. So I decided right then I had to go report what I just saw. Because frankly, I didn't know what I saw at that time. Like I had stated before, this thing had a lot of hair on it. It was huge. But the head, face, and such looked human, or looked like caveman, Neanderthal. And that's what it reminded me of. So I went back to the vehicle, and I got in. I had my waiter stuff on, and turned the car around and headed toward the nearest telephone, which was located at a bar right into town, as I came underneath the bridge, I called the police, called the local police, Sexville police. They told me to go back and they'd send somebody out. So now this situation I went through was kind of strange, because by the time I got back, which was only a couple of minutes because it was only a mile away, Maryland State Police Cruiser was already there. And when I pulled up, he told me to stay in my car and back out of there. And I told him, I said, well, I just made the report. I wanted to see what was going on. And, he said, look, I don't have time to talk, get the car and leave. And I noticed that there was another car that pulled up. I don't know which one it was, what jurisdiction it came, but I went ahead and pulled around and went home. Now, I lived in Spikesville at the time, so, I stayed home for about an hour, and I decided I'm going to go back and see what was going on. So I drove back, and when I got there, I had to actually park on the road about a quarter mile from where everything was going on, because it was lined up and down with different cars. By the time I walked up the road to the location, they had everything cordoned off. There was a state trooper there. Now there was a different state trooper, and I asked him, I said, well, what's going on? And he started laughing. He said, somebody had a Bigfoot report. And then, and at that time, I never even called it a Bigfoot, because I didn't know, I wasn't really familiar with Bigfoot, though I had known about the Bobby Creek. But anyway, there were black vehicles there. They were kind of like the old, they didn't have SUVs back in '81. It was like the, I don't know. It was like larger Jeeps. That's what kind of remind me of. And there were a lot of people going in and out through the woods and thickets and into the brush. They had dogs out there. And, and I asked the guy, I said, but funny, I said, yeah, they found some hair from what I told. So I said, who's out here? He said, well, I'm here. He said, there's other people here. I guess they're federal. And it did look like it was federal. And I heard a helicopter too, but I never did see it. So I stood around for a little bit, and eventually they ran everybody off. And I went back home, and I called the TV news people in Baltimore. There was still three TV stations in town then, and they were interested. They wanted to talk. So they all said they were going to look into it, to call them back, or they called me back. So next day I never got a phone call. I called each of them back, and nobody wanted to talk to me. And from that point on, I just took it. I just took the lead and went out and started talking to people who had been around. There had been a Sykesville monster, what they called the Sykesville monster incidents back in the early 70s, right around the time of the tropical storm Agnes floods. And I had started talking to some of the people that had witnessed this thing back then, and I got a lot of information from people. But I actually interviewed 8 people that had seen this, including someone that had it come into their kitchen and tear the kitchen up pretty bad. So that's about it. And that, like I said, that's been over 30 years ago, almost 35 years ago. So I just when BFRO actually came into existence, I guess I made the initial report with them back in 1995, and that's about it.
Now, that's awesome. I wish I never experienced a Bigfoot, or no matter how many times I've gone out, I had other experiences, but never with a Bigfoot. And something that you've seen in the memory, and obviously you had to see it because you remember so many details.
Uh,
A lot of people, you can tell somebody's like, oh, I don't know, or I forgot. You remember everything, the date, the time.
It's something you don't forget. I mean, I can't talk for other people that have said they have seen it, but in my case, this thing was so vivid that I could pick up a lot of details of it. And just because of the situation with, the authorities showing up so fast, and then nobody wanting to talk about it, it stayed in my mind for a long, long time, and I never forgot about it.
Yeah, that's like you said, the federal government. We all know the government. To have the feds come out, they knew there was something there, and they were probably hoping to capture it or something to make it go away.
Well, I think they did find it. I'll be honest with you. I think they did find it because I think they were tracking it. It took me a long time to get some information on what actually happened that day, but I think downriver from where I was, there's a town called Marysville, and I think near there, well, I know for a fact near there was a sighting that day, and for whatever reason, I think the authorities were already tracking this being. And when my call came in, they weren't far away. That's how they got there quick. So I think they were actually looking for it. I think they found it too. And that's why I think everything shut up so quickly.
So it's a possibly, you think I think it's very possible that they found it and, they have the body hidden somewhere and they're not going to admit to the public that, hey, there's something else here and this is what it is.
Well, there's a lot of variables involved with this area where I saw it as well. There were a lot of different, facilities, unknown facilities at the time, which are no longer there. There were a lot of rumors about different facilities that possibly held unknown beings in them. Because I live in the Washington, Baltimore area, so there's a lot of government facilities around here, and a lot of large installations as well. And there's been, I've heard a gamut of different things for years. I've had researchers who live in the area that have come across a lot of weird things as well. So, I really couldn't pinpoint what happened. All I can do is speculate. But my thought is, I think they did find them.
Okay, that's so. Why do you think, as far as Bigfoot, that obviously he's very elusive, and why don't you think anybody will ever be able to actually find him?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. That's a question that, I guess that's the $64,000 question. Why I haven't found anything? Quite frankly, I don't know. I just don't know. I've talked to a lot of people about this phenomena. I've talked to people that have been on the trail of one of these beings, not far from behind it. You got an eyeball on it, and the thing would just suddenly disappear, just like it vanished in thin air. I've heard that several times. I had a well-known researcher talk to me about one that he was following up the Sierra Nevadas back in 2005, and he was right behind it, and all of a sudden the thing, he just lost sight of it, and where it disappeared at, it was just no place there where it could have gone. So you hear these type of things, and it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder where these things go to. Are they flesh and blood terrestrial beings, or are they some type of non-terrestrial being that has the ability to move in and out of different planes? Do they know how to get in and out of dimensions and such? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, and that's it's like a lot of people, I'm sure said, oh, you're nuts, you're this, you're that, and I don't know if you're familiar with the melon heads.
I don't know a whole lot about that. I've heard of it. I haven't really researched much of it.
Yeah, well, I had an encounter over 20 years ago. Long story short, me and my friends heard the legend. I lived 2 miles from there. We drove in the woods. We went down, thought we saw a shadow, turn around, come back up, and there's a deer, leg in the middle of the road. And we're like, oh, okay. And they said, let's get out of here. Well, me the next day said, oh, let me be brave. Well, I went down there, and where the area we saw the shadow, I get out of my car. I walked probably 20, 30 feet in the woods. I heard branches and shined my flashlight up. And what I saw, like you, I'll never forget. The huge head and the teeth and everything. And I remember just turning around, running, and got in my car. And I felt the whole way home I was waiting to feel a hand on my shoulder. And, I told people what happened. And, back then kids would make fun of you. And I said, look, I know what I saw, and you don't got to believe me. And like
like I said, I hear a lot of different stories. I give people the benefit of the doubt when they send something into me to look into, or they want me to put it on the blog and such. But of course, you got to separate the wheat from the chaff as well. You got a lot of stories that are just completely unbelievable, and that's why I like to, when I do get something in an email or somebody calls me, I do question them about it, and I try to get as much information about it. But there are a lot of strange things out there. There's no doubt that in my mind.
Oh yeah, and that's again why these, none of these beings or monsters, whatever people want to call them, I call them cryptids, are never going to be found, in my opinion, because I believe they get beamed up, or they somehow just disappear, on command. Because how it's like you stated with Bigfoot, can you be following something in the middle of the woods and you get to that location, it's not there? Like with the Mothman, the Jersey Devil, the Hellhound, all these creatures. You're not gonna tell me there's that many creatures out there that could just disappear in the blink of an eye.
Well, I think there's a common thread with a lot of paranormal phenomena. Just not necessarily just cryptids. I think, spiritual beings, paranormal activity, even aliens and other types of oddities. I think there's some type of there is connection there, and the reason why we're seeing so much more of it now, that's hard to tell, but there are a lot more things that are being reported, and a lot of different things too. But of course, there are a lot of sightings that could go either way. They could be one thing or the other. There's some type of small variation of some type. But the area where I'm at, well, I'm in Maryland, but I do a lot of investigation of phenomena in Pennsylvania with a lot of different people I work with, and Pennsylvania is a very active state, and there's a lot of different things that go on up there. Not just Bigfoot or UFOs, it's just a lot of variety. And it's because of the terrain, the wilderness and such. There are a lot of areas that are still fairly wild and people just don't know a whole lot about. But again, there are a lot of government installations in Pennsylvania that people don't know about as well. So, you could probably look at it and think a variety of ways of why this and that is there. And you could drive yourself crazy thinking about it sometimes.
Yeah, and that, good point that I was going to bring up next. You led right into it. The thoughts on Area 51, were one of the few locations that I know of that says they could shoot and kill you. I also heard a rumor that Area 51 got moved. It's not even there no more.
Well, it's there, but I don't think they do the research they used to do. I think I think at this point, most of what they had been doing, Area 51, as far as engineering, whatever spacecraft, if there are getting spacecraft or alien beings. I think most of that's being done over in Utah or Dugway. It seemed to me that there has been some more building in that area for the last 15, 20 years, and I think Area 51 that right now is mostly used for just military testing. I think Dugway is where most of the fringe type experiments and other things are done now.
Yeah, and that's, one thing that always, I'm sure, not only intrigued me, but probably thousands of others, back, what were they hiding, I should say, in there that it was that off limits to the public? Usually, it'd be like, okay, come in but trespass. To have people sitting up on a hill that are armed that could shoot you, that raises red flags, I think, to almost anybody.
Well, the stump works and such were already there. I think most of what the big secret was that Area 51 was basically military technology, and what they were developing there. People have said they've seen a lot of different things flying around there. Well, of course, I don't doubt that. I mean, they did a lot of flight testing there as well. But as far as deep underground and possible biological experiments, I don't think that, if any, was done at Area 51. I think there were other facilities, in the West, in New Mexico especially, and possibly other locations like Roy Patterson and a few other places that it could have been done as well. So, Area 51, I think that was mostly aircraft technology.
Okay, so you don't think it was like a lot of the theory that people have is, hey, there was aliens and spaceships that they kept there and they didn't want the public to see them, so that's why it was so heavily guarded.
They may have been there at one time, but I don't think they may have been housed there for a brief time, but I think a lot of what had been found was moved off, and I hear a lot of different theories about where they did have alien bodies, which I believe they did, but where it went to, and I think some of the larger facilities may be housing these beings now, but I don't think Area 51 is one of them.
Yeah, so your feeling is that they probably, which I agree, they do have, alien beings and they do have their aircraft, and instead of just saying to the public, hey, look, there is other life, which there has to be, they just want to try to keep covering it up pretty much forever.
Well, if you look at the advances that we've had now in technology in the last 50 years, it's fairly obvious to me. So, I'm not saying that humans didn't have the ability to develop that technology, but I think we've been using some of what's been found, and I think it's been used to get us to advance us a bit faster than we would have normally. The computer age came in fairly quickly, and it seems like the technology changes every year. And I think there's a lot of different government contractors that I believe do have access to some of this technology that was found, and I think they utilize a lot of it to develop the new technologies, of course, that we have now. 20 years ago, if you told me we had the things we have at this present time, I just told you crazy. Well, most people would have. So, it's pretty, I think it's obvious that, that we've used some of it.
Yeah, like you said, some of the basics things we just think about, we use every day, the cell phones, remote controls for the TV, and, that had the wavelength, all that stuff had to come from somewhere. You got to think about it. There wasn't just some guy sitting, hey, let me come up and, with this infrared light idea.
Well, light optics, especially, I think, were something that was actually discovered somehow in one of these possible crashes and such. I think it's something that was used fairly quickly, that it was understood fairly quickly, and it made a big difference in communications and such back in the 50s and 60s. And we were just able to, bypass the technology because it didn't have to be developed, basically. It just had to be engineered. And I think bigger and better things were on the horizon, and that's what I think that's how the computer age was set up much quickly than what it could have been.
Yeah, and I agree. The one thing, and some people, if they want, can call me crazy, is all this, 3G, 4G, all that technology that's coming out recently. I don't think, personally, humans are smart enough to start coming on their own with all these ideas.
Well, I'm not saying that. I think many years ago, science got a push from what was discovered, what was found, and because of that, I think humans were able to kind of pick up on a lot of this, understand it much better, and kind of develop a lot of things they wouldn't have unless they had that help. I'm not saying that they've got aliens out there to help them out directly, but I think some of the technology was found and was engineered to where we could use it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's if you think about it, when people reported, UFOs, they said, bright and blinking lights, and that's where I think maybe part of what the LED aspect came from recently, because that wasn't maybe the past 5 or 10 years, but now LED lights are like the in thing all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Back when I was younger, I'm 46, it was just a light bulb in a taillight of a car, and the old-fashioned light bulbs. Now you got these fluorescent ones, you got LED ones. And if I think back, and I'm like, wait a minute, the spaceships, people see, they're brighter, and the patterns that they would be in kind of make sense to me as far as the LED.
Well, definition in electronics, definition in any type of communication is far superior than it was, and it was done quickly. And, the microprocessor, how was that found? It was, it just seemed like it was something that fell awful quickly. So, that's just my theory. A lot of people have the same theory, but, I think that's basically what was going on.
Okay, and that's, I'll jump to the next, your opinion on people. Obviously, when they hear paranormal, they immediately jump to ghost.
Uh-huh.
And my definition of paranormal or a paranormal investigator is you study all three, because I classify all three. The cryptology, UFOlogy, and the ghost hunting. And so for some people, that's a touchy subject. You're like, well, no, I'm a ghost hunter. I'm a paranormal investigator. What are your thoughts, opinions on that?
Well, when you're a paranormal investigator, you're just not investigating ghost or spiritual energy or any type of unknown energy. It's everything. Everything is paranormal. UFOs, Bigfoot, they're not normal, so they're paranormal. Any type of supernatural type subject should be considered as paranormal.
Yeah, and that's, what I strongly agree with. And again, a lot of these, not to knock anybody, but a lot of these newer groups, they're called, paranormal this or paranormal that. And I got in a debate with one, and I said, oh, you study UFOs and cryptozoology? Oh, no, just ghosts. I said, so you're a ghost hunter? No, I'm a paranormal investigator, and that's, we got into that debate.
Yeah, well, they're ghost hunters. That's basically what they are. I mean, they like to use the word paranormal, but basically they're just ghost hunters. And, you know, even though I used to do that to an extent, I just don't, as far as just doing that, I'll do it. I'll get involved with this type of situation if it's something tied into another aspect of paranormal. I very rarely do hauntings or poltergeists or thought form visitations. I do occasionally, but at this point now, I'm just doing everything and anything I can help with.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we do. And we actually, my group split up. Some people are not interested in the cryptozoology and the UFOs. They just like the ghost hunting. And like you, I like to keep myself well-rounded and educated. And I feel if you're willing to do all three, you might be able to connect the three possibly one day to get the answer for at least one of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, there is, like I said before, there is a connection. There are a lot of times when I'm investigating a certain subject, a certain incident, and something else will come into it that's considered paranormal. And like I said before, there have been people that Stan Gordon, for instance, is a friend of mine that's been he's been investigating UFO Bigfoot connection for years. Flying cryptids. There's a lot of speculation that they may be tied into alien type beings as well. I mean, it's none of this is defined as just paranormal. Is not defined as just one thing.
Yeah, I obviously, like I said, I strongly agree, and that's kind of one of my pet peeves. And if you're just gonna do ghosts, say you're a ghost hunter, and if you're educated in all three, it can only make you better at all three. That's my opinion. And as I think one of my thoughts, like we stated earlier, is I think TV, in a way, it's helping because it's bringing people awareness. Hey, don't be shy; it is out there. But on the other hand, it's bringing a lot of people out that just pretty much are hoping for their big break to get on TV.
Well, I agree with that. There's a lot of people that see stars in their eyes and dollar signs as well, and they figure since a bunch of plumbers can start a TV show about hunting ghosts, they can do the same thing, and it just doesn't work that way. And plus, it's oversaturated now. You don't see as many ghost hunting related shows popping up anymore, though there are a few, and they're usually tailored to some other thing, like using some type of device or something, where somebody's developed that they go to a more scientific approach. So I don't particularly buy into any of that, but it's not like it was before, and it's almost impossible. Let's say you're going to just start up a group and go out there and make money or get yourself known on TV. You want to do that, you're going to have to do a lot of other things.
Yeah, and pretty much like you said, and that's, I agree, one more than 100% as far as, these shows and devices. And, one show that I won't say the name of, I can't even watch. It's, they're trying to trap a ghost in a homemade contraption. And I'm like, really? How do you expect you're making something to trap a ghost that, nobody's proven 100% exists? People believe it, but how do you think a homemade device is going to trap something you can't even see?
That's all done for entertainment value. Which a lot of this is. I mean, in particular shows like Mouth Monsters, those shows where instead of being investigators, they're all characters, basically. And, those type of shows are, they're out there looking for a lot of different things and actually some type of device where they see light flashing. They're talking to spirit and start flashing light. I just don't buy any of that. You know, regardless of what type of proof they think they've got, it's just, you know, it's either coincidental or speculation, and a little bit of both, I'd say.
Yeah, me and, a couple other people that have been in it as long as we all have, the K2 meter, the light flashed. Well, what's to say somebody, wasn't flipping a remote, or it's the cell phone in your pocket picking up a signal, or I just laugh when people like that flashlight trick, and I'm pretty sure you've probably seen it, that scientist that showed, how it happens, and they just keep asking until it flashes, and oh yeah, and then when they ask that question, they'll keep going.
Well, they don't show you the footage, all the hours of footage where it doesn't do anything either. They just, it's cut. They cut to wearing something that looks good, and they use that. So I know the tricks. It's just something else to enhance the entertainment value of a show, and that's why it's popular. If these ghost hunters were out there in an hour show and didn't get any type of reaction to anything they do, well, the show wouldn't be on very long. So, but people get the wrong idea. They start up these groups and think everything they see, hear, and find is paranormal. And believe me, I get a lot of that. I got people sending me stuff all the time. I got people that send me every little orb they see. They're sending pictures of it. I'll look at it and we can give them my opinion. And if they don't like it, well, that's just the way it is. But quite frankly, very few of it are actual paranormal anomalies. It's just, it's either some type of reflection or dust or something else.
Yeah, I know that's the big thing that drives me personally nuts. Oh, I got an orb in my picture, and one woman, we were doing a presentation. Oh, look, I caught an orb storm on my camera, and I was like, oh, I bit my tongue so hard.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's just everybody, is like you said, you can tell, since, in my opinion, and I've said this publicly before, any group that started after Ghost Hunters, I can't take seriously, because in my opinion, they're like, oh, look, they made it big, let me start a group and I'll make it big. And now it's turned into, who's better than who, and, you see it on Facebook, and it's got to the point where this one's suing that one, and it turned into like a soap opera.
Well, I don't totally discount all the paranormal groups. Those groups that actually have intuitives that are working with them, possibly a psychic or someone who can actually explain what they sense and what they feel is going on, and do it with a little bit of sense, and just not go into a location looking for ghost signs and then, not really helping the people that are living there 24 hours a day. If I'm in a location doing this, I'm there to help somebody. I'm here to give them answers. And when I do give them answers, I'm going to stick with them and actually do some aftercare with them and try to get them to understand and to try to cope with what's going on. That never really happens, unfortunately, and that's that's where a lot of situations actually can get worse. I've seen many hauntings just graduate and get much worse when a group will go in there and just exasperate the situation.
That's like excellent point, and that's one of the reasons, about my opinion about the recent groups. They'll go in get their evidence, and say, oh yeah, there's something there, and then leave it at that. Or, which I thought was unreal, is I see lately a lot of groups before they leave telling the client, what's there or who's there and why. And one of them says, oh, we got rid of it. And I'm like, well, how can you guarantee that you got rid of it? And then another posting I read, and this one might make you laugh, is, well, we found out there was two spirits there. We told them to play nice or we're going to come back and cleanse the home.
Yeah, I mean, even if you do have a good grasp of what's going on, and you do have some type of sense or connection with what the entity is doing or why the earthbound is there, you cannot guarantee that it's gone. It's just, you just can't do that. For the most part, if an earthbound is at a location and it doesn't want to leave, it's not going anywhere. You can do all you can to get rid of it, and it's just not leaving. It's there for a reason. A lot of times these entities don't even know they've passed on. They're there. They're confused to a point, but some of them do have an idea of what's going on. And it's out actually palpable energy. It's energy that can be felt. I mean, all these hauntings are nothing but energy. And it just depends how the energy's developed, how it's gotten there. And there's just no way you can tell a client that you've solved the problem. These things normally take months. I've been on cases. I've been on a case. I've still been on because I still work with the clients for almost 3 years now, and things happen, and especially if the clients are what we call beacons or drawn to spiritual energy, and it's a difficult process to try to get them to understand what's going on, and to have the situation get to the point where they can actually control it and alleviate some of the problems.
Yeah, and that's, one thing what I tell people, and, you explained it, is like a group telling somebody or, oh, well, we think we made it go away, and, then you put it into the client's head, oh, good, it's gone, until they start thinking about it again, then it comes back. And, that's one thing that I noticed. But the other thing is, I always would tell a client, it's gone for now. And they'll go, what do you mean for now? And you just stated, I said, it can come back at any time. If they don't want to leave, they're not going to leave. They'll go in hiding for a while, but when they're ready to come back, they're going to come back and let you know it.
Well, it all depends on the type of haunting it is. For the most part, if it's an actual entity, an earthbound entity that's there for, that doesn't realize it's passed on, or is there that you stick around because it feels it has some type of unfinished business, for a myriad of reasons. That's one type of energy. But, of course, you get into a poltergeist type situation where, you've got someone that's one of the family of the client or the client themselves is actually causing the problem unintentionally, unconsciously. Well, then that's another situation, and that's something where the clients, you can guide them and you can counsel them, but they're going to have to get rid of that themselves. And it's not really a whole lot you can do about it. But, that's what's important about sticking with them and giving them the sense of what's really going on and being honest with them. And that's one thing I think most of these groups, well, I know most groups lack in, is just being honest with the client. But a lot of the problem is they just don't, a lot of times they go into a situation and don't really realize what they're dealing with. And that will make it worse. And of course, you come into another situation where there's some type of possibly a possession or something similar to that. Well, then you've got to, you just can't have any type of group come in there and
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree that somebody, in a nutshell, that has the power or authority to make something leave. I know myself. I'll go in, I'll tell you what's there, and I'll stay with you until the end. But I'm not going to go in there telling you, oh, and I ain't going to walk around with a stick of sage and saying some prayers and tell you it's gone. I'm not qualified to do that.
No.
So that's the one thing that I don't agree with. But like you said, a lot of people do that. So, but yeah, and I mean, if there's before we go, what's your next project and book that you're working on?
I'm involved with all kinds of stuff. I've been involved with this Ties East case up in Northumberland County, Pennsylvania. It was a situation back in 2002 where a gentleman went missing and his body turned up, and there was UFO activity seen at the time. It's been a case that's been covered up. Me and a few other people, including Butch Wachowski, and his group have been investigating this for a couple of years now, and we're still investigating it. So that's one case I'm working on. Whatever else comes my way, I've been involved with a local haunting, which is kind of dragging on. I'm still really involved with a case out in Iowa that I've been working on for 3 years now. God, it's just a lot of different little things, There's an habituation area, a Bigfoot habituation area up in the Atlanta Maritimes that I've been advising a client on, and he's been sending me evidence. So, as far as the next book, I'll probably put one together this coming winter again, and I don't know if it'll be a compilation or it'll be another part of the series. I don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure another one will be coming out soon.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I have a link to your webpage and everything on my webpage, so they can go look at your website and purchase your books. And I definitely appreciate your time and your knowledge. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
Take care now.
You too. Bye.